Okay. All right. You all have a good meeting. Good night.
Thank you, Pablo.
Aye.
Hi, Pablo.
Good night. Good night.
Good
Good seeing
night.
you. Bye-bye.
Hi.
Okay. I am going to call this meeting to order. It is 7:35 p.m. In respect for everyone who is here and their time, I would think we should get the ball rolling. For those of you who don't know, my name is Julia Gomez. I am the chair of the Youth Committee. I also want to just put into the universe that I think I might hold the record or tied for the fastest meetings. I try to respect folks' time, especially, there are lots of commitments. So I will do my best to keep this meeting moving along while at the same time making sure we address all items that need to be addressed.
Thank you.
The first item I put on the agenda was introduction of committee members and guests. I take this as a voluntary thing. You don't have to speak. I've never liked the whole, tell us something in an adjective that begins with the first letter of your name. That's my favorite thing to do. I do want to encourage folks to do that since this is our first joint meeting. If anyone doesn't know others, please feel free to speak up. And I'll be quiet for a moment now.
Okay, I'm Lisa Dow, former board member, former chair of the Aging Committee, and I'm glad that I'm still going to be part of this board activities and this group especially. So thank you. That's me.
I'm Myra Joyce, former board member, former vice chair of aging, and member of Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs. And I'm here because I got an invite.
I'm Lee Chong. I'm a current member of the Aging Committee, the chair of the Housing Committee for the moment, and member of the Land Use Committee.
I'm Miriam Rabner. I participate in the Aging Committee meetings. I'm a Riverdalian, and professionally, I'm the outreach coordinator for MJHS Hospice and Palliative Care.
I'm Rita Lowe. I'm currently part of the Education Committee and the Library Committee. I've been a member of Community Board 8 for many, many years, and I was on the Youth Committee in the past and many other times. So.
See, Sergio joined us. Hi, Sergio.
Hi there. Are we introducing? Is it my turn? I'm Sergio Villaverde. I'm a member of the Youth Committee, and I've been on the board for a few years in a couple of different capacities. And hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
Georgia's here. Hey, Georgia.
Hi there, this is Georgia. I'm a member of Aging Committee, and I've been on quite a few of the other committees during my span of time there on the board, traffic and transportation and others. And that's about it for me.
Nice.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I can go. My name is Leona. I'm on the Youth Committee and also the Parks and Recreation Committee. I feel like a novice. I've been on the board for less than a year compared to everyone else here, but
I'm a newbie too, don't worry.
We could use new blood.
Leona joined us last year as a community member and got on the board this year, and she has provided invaluable point of view and insight that has helped the Youth Committee immeasurably. And she will be starting college in the fall. We're very excited for the next adventure. Anyone else before I move on? All right. We do have a quorum for the Youth Committee. So is there any discussion of the April minutes for the Youth Committee? If not, I'll move to vote. Any opposition to approving the April 2023 minutes? Any abstentions? Thanks, guys. Aging, do you have a quorum? I'm not.
I think we do. Georgia, myself, Rita,
Yeah.
we're three. Out of, normally we have 4 or 5, I forget now.
It's 4 now.
4, so
We have a
Margaret is not
quorum.
here. Margaret is not here. We're going to approve the March 2023 minutes. I don't think there are any major issues discussed. Do I have any comments of people who want to make any changes to them? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Someone said, I'll approve, I'll approve. I make a motion to approve. Can I have a second?
I
Rita,
can't-
can.
I can't. Oh,
Rita, you can approve it, yes? Oh, no.
no, they said I can't.
Who else is on the committee?
No, Rita and Georgia.
Georgia, approve the second.
Yeah,
amendment.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
And no one abstains, and no one is opposed to it, so the motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the chairperson's report for youth. I just have one youth specific or 2 youth specific things, and then one kind of joint thing. Sorry, I should have said this before. I apologize. My cat waits until I'm on these meetings to decide that she wants all of the attention. So if things go
Yeah.
wrong or you hear crashing, just ignore it. She's just being her. So for youth, I was informed by the board office when I followed up on the Yankee Award that due to the timeline and everything else, we got 2 applications. They went directly to the board office due to some technical issues. Those 2 applications were complete. And since we normally send up to 5, the office just sent them directly on to the Yankees. I do have them for our perusal, I guess, but they have already been sent on. We did get a lot lower response than we have in previous years. And, that might be something we want to explore in either this meeting if we have time or the next meeting as people think is the best use of time. For the Comeback Kid Award, because we have not gotten any applications for it, the office moved the date to June 2nd, which is 2 weeks from Friday, so that we'll have them for our June meeting. We can vote, and then the award would be given out in September with the Most Valuable Merchant and the Irving Latimer Award. So we're still on the timeline. But the office is trying to do a press to remind folks that it's available. They've also reached out to the 5-0 and their youth officers. So we're hoping that we'll get some response, but I do think it's worth us kind of exploring if we can send a survey out or something, what happened, because I think we normally get 3 or 4 or 5 and for both the Yankees and everything else, and we haven't really gotten a response. So we should probably take a peek at what's going on with folks. Is it something about the applications? Is it the timing? Is it just kind of burnout and fatigue? Life happens. So those are my 2 youth specific things. For those of you who may not know, this is our first joint meeting between youth and aging. We've started discussions about merging these 2 committees. I can imagine that aging folks probably have the same concerns that we did, that while ideologically this sounds like a good idea, how is it going to work and how do we make sure that nobody's voice gets lost and no population gets displaced, and we keep advocating for the people who need our advocacy. So in our last meeting, there was the idea that if you don't know procedurally, this would have to be a resolution. It would have to go before the full board twice. And before it could even happen, at this point, it would not happen before the next year. I think most of us and please disagree with me, I'm wrong every day, I know that. I think most of us would probably be more comfortable with it happening in a new year cycle, so to speak, so in a September to try a merged committee. So there was some discussion in the last youth meeting about trying these meetings semi-regularly over the next year of these merged joint meetings to see how they work, how we feel about them, and if we think we can make them work so that nobody's lost in the shuffle, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward to feedback from everyone, because if it's not working and we can tweak it, that's awesome. And if it's not working and we can't, then we can't. But I do have a lot of faith and hope that we can. That's my elevator speech, so to speak. Any questions, comments, or concerns from those in attendance?
Julia, Judy?
Yes.
I agree with you. And I give you a perfect example. On last Thursday, May 11th, I believe it was, there was a rally down in City Hall for Aging Advocacy Day. And there were I think I was told 750 attendees. Many of the attendees were youth. And the reason they were there is they volunteer in senior centers. And a lot of them actually work in Meals on Wheels, which this wonderful administration has decided to kind of gut financially. So they were there, and also there were I belong to Riverdale Senior Services, and we have intergenerational all the time. Students from Horace Mann come, and and then we have a kinder school, the younger children, and it's like grandmothers are working with the grandchildren type situation, and the younger ones are helping do the computer stuff that we just had something this weekend where the majority of the people that were teaching the older generation how to use Zoom or how to even use some of the apps that they have. So it kind of makes sense. My 2 cents.
No, I think there are definitely spaces where, both the intersection is quite clear and thick and obvious. I think there are some other spaces where, we would have to work out how we support both groups in their very uniquely tailored events and priorities. But I do think it can work, but we won't know until we try. So I'm encouraged by this meeting and hopefully several more in the next year, so that we can get a real idea of how and if this works. Other thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I know that RSS and the why we're going to attend, I don't know what happened. The change in time was confusing or something, but
Oh, Lisa,
Yeah.
Riverdale Y didn't attend the one downtown because they attended the one in the Bronx earlier, in April, I think it was. So they were short-staffed. That's what we were told.
right. Okay, great. Now there's, again, a lot of intergenerational things, and it goes both ways. Certainly helping with tech and whatever is one thing, and updating people on cultural issues and changes, and, the world changes, and, everyone needs to be kept up to date, but we also have lots of retired teachers that do a lot of tutoring, and, so there is a lot of synergy between the groups. And it's interesting. I think back in 2019, I helped both the Youth and Aging Committee put together an event. It was called the Generations event, and it was so much fun. We had it at Riverdale Neighborhood House, and we had dancing, we had chess games, we had all sorts of activities. And but now I think the district has a lot more volunteer groups that are trying to get people together, whether it's for Bronx Project, they're doing a lot of work, and over at the Neighborhood House and at KRVC. And it's really, it's great to get community people together and of all generations. And, if we just keep the centers up front and other organizations that really advocate for our respective groups, I'm just hoping, we won't get lost and our needs will be represented, and we'll have more people like today to advocate for each other, that's all I'm saying. So,
Yeah, so I think on a practical note, and I don't mean to sound callous or anything, but I do think it probably is worth acknowledging is we have a lot of committees in Community Board 8. And, I don't want to square peg round hole anything, but if this works, I'm a chair, so technically I only have to be on the youth committee officially. I'm on 2 other committees in addition to exec, so I go to at least 5 meetings a month. And most of our meetings are not 35 minutes, an hour long.
Yeah.
So, our time commitment has increased. It is a lot. And it may be one way to address that as well, is that because with all these committees, I can speak for youth, sometimes it's hard getting people to join. And so what do you do when you have 2 people and someone gets sick? Now you don't have quorum and now you can't do anything. And now, so it also may help address that. But again, it only makes sense if it makes sense, so hopefully this is the first of many good meetings. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So, I'm very mixed about this, and I'm not sure, being that I'm not on the community board anymore or on the aging committee, I'm not sure how much input I should have, but I don't know, it seems like a good idea combining the committees, but I'm afraid that the direction of each committee is going to get sidetracked or diverted or lost. I don't even know how to explain it. So for, the aging committee meetings were often, we had speakers advocating for certain areas of the aging community, housing, political help, whatever. And I'm just not convinced or sure of how this is going to work between the aging and the youth committee. Do you feel, Julia, that you're going to lose some sense of advocacy for your population, or do you think that,
I think it's a possibility, right? That's the fear, is that by merging these 2 committees, we won't really be able to advocate for each individual group. The focus will become on intergenerational, and anything that doesn't quite fit may be lost. I think that's why, I'm hoping that we can have more of these meetings over the next year, that we can set up a regular cadence for them and see. That way it's not just when we don't have any other business we're getting together. It's when there's something going on. Can we make sure we're devoting equal time to aging and youth and intergenerational? I think it's possible. I think we can find a way, but we have to make sure that we do. We don't want to lose anybody or any opinion, or, have anyone feel like they're being silenced or this no longer makes sense for them as we go through this. So, that's why I think if we can do next year, either quarterly or every other month or something, to see how it works. And then in the last meeting that we have jointly next year, we can say, hey, this was great, let's keep doing this, or we should take the next step, or hey, this really didn't work, we should scrap it, or we're close, but we're not quite there, let's try it one more year. We won't know until we try. And I feel very confident that with this group and the folks who are here now and the folks who are coming back next year, that we have people who will keep us with that idea and that spirit, at least through the next year, so that we can get a real sense of how or if this works.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the new, when there's elections on the board coming up in June, we'll see, hopefully there'll be a chair of aging, and then new members, what are their interests and how do they feel? So, it is a time of change on the board, and change can be good. We'll see.
Absolutely. Any other discussion of kind of the idea of these joint meetings? All right, so the next item on the agenda that I have is kind of discussion of ongoing meetings. I know we're kind of making our best guess right now because this is the first one and we probably won't have one. Well, I guess we could have one in June if people feel like that's very, very helpful, but it's more likely we'll have it after the summer break. Do people have a sense of what would work in terms of a schedule every other month, quarterly? My personal opinion is it shouldn't be less than quarterly because that would still only be about 3 meetings next year. And I don't know that if we have less than that, we'll be able to get a really good idea of if they're working or not. But that's my personal opinion. Like I said, I'm wrong every day. This could be one of those times. Other thoughts?
Honestly, my instinct would be to table that question until the end of this meeting.
Okay.
Just because I feel like after we've gotten through other things, we'll have an idea of how this goes and how much we can get done together and how much overlap there really is. And I think that would definitely inform the decision on how frequently we have these meetings.
Okay, so I believe that's officially a motion to amend the agenda to make item 5, item 8. Is there,
Motion to amend the agenda.
is there a second on that?
Second,
Okay, so we will table that until the end of the meeting. I'm sorry, I guess we technically have to vote, don't we? Is there any opposition to tabling this? I'll check virtual hands too, just to be sure. Okay, any abstentions from that vote? All right, we'll table it. The next item is intergenerational business / programming. I know, Lee, you had already brought up one existing item for how intergenerational programming. Is there anything that we would like to put out as a priority or anything that we think, you know, that we should take up for the next year as an intergenerational goal? Or, you know, this is really open, so I'm just throwing words out. So feel free to jump in and give thoughts.
Yeah, my mistake, but I thought that the centers would be here and talk about their programs that they have, both, youth and aging programs together, but might have to table that discussion as well.
We can. I think we did discuss, something that's come up is some of the technology thing. If some of the community centers aren't already doing that, we could advocate for them or try to get their sense about if they're doing how it's working, if they're not, how we can support them in getting that off the ground.
Right.
That's potentially one thing. Leona, get a
Yeah,
hand?
I know the why. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt?
I
Well,
think Leona.
it's just about to start if you want to finish.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I know the Y has programs with kids from Duro coming, and then they have from schools for kids with special needs to meet together and have discussions with the older adults. And on the weekends they have programs, and as Lee mentioned, there's a lot of work with that RSS does with
Forest Man.
Forest Man, thank you. And again, we had the board sponsored, a get together, which was just really a lot of fun having fun together. In 2019, and we might want to, put something like that together again. But I think the advocacy for the centers or other groups that hold these, I don't know, whether helping tutoring, whatever it is, that, we could be a combined force to advocate for that. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I asked this question in one of the youth meetings of the organizations that usually come to our meetings when we were discussing this idea of a joint youth and aging meeting. And I don't remember exactly who was there on that meeting of the organizations that usually come to the youth meetings, but they said that they didn't do any programs for seniors. They focus solely on youth programming. So obviously that doesn't apply to every community center, but to some of the ones that frequent our meetings, they just don't have anything for seniors.
Yeah, well,
Well,
Neighborhood House, oh, sorry, Lee, I'm
I just want to
sorry.
say, I don't think it's that they have a program for seniors. It's more the youth explain what their interests are and the older adults explain their experience based on what their interests, the youth's interests are. They interrelate. Like there was one session, about several months ago at RSS where students from, I think predominantly Horace Mann, but I think there were other high schools there, who sat down and interviewed, and they had a list of questions they wanted to ask the seniors. You know, like, how did you come to the senior center? Why did you come? And things like that. And they exchanged information. Like, so it's two-way street.
Right, and there's like career days, like Riverdale Neighborhood House has a lot of activities, even though it's technically, they only have a program a phone reassurance program for older adults. They still have issues with adults. They have programs, career days to discuss, different careers. And Kingsbridge Heights has a lot of food programs that benefit the entire community. And I'm sure they have some tutoring programs as well. So they might not have, I think it was a board member who also said that, well, they don't service all the communities, but I think some of the centers just reach out, like Leah said, to other schools to get people together. So it's not maybe housed at the same location, but they still have intergenerational programs. So anyway.
Yeah, to Leona's point, most of the programs, agencies that attend the youth meetings are like after-school programs.
Hmm.
So that may be something that we could discuss with them about, would they be open to a career day, some kind of experience-led thing, but they don't serve anyone other than the school-aged
Right.
right now. So I think, well, like one of them is Montefiore. Montefiore is huge. They do lots and lots of things, but those who come to our meeting are from the Beacon programs and the school programs.
Yeah, I think, what I was thinking of also is if we have more people together, there'd be more outreach to bring other organizations in that aren't attending regularly anymore. That serve both communities. Anyway, that's it.
Any other thoughts? So my instinct, and again, feel free to disagree, is that as a starting point, we should maybe reach out to our respective listservs and ask them, hey, do you have intergenerational programming? Would you be interested in intergenerational programming like career days or technology days or whatever giving each one some example and see what their feedback is. We would hopefully have that by our individual June meetings, and we could review that and maybe come back together in the fall with a better sense of where do we go from here. Does that feel right to folks? Does that feel not enough, too much?
Sounds good.
I'm writing it down because if I don't write it down, I will never remember tomorrow. So that is the bulk of the agenda that I had planned. So the next item is new business. Is there any aging or youth or merged business that we should take up at this time? Maybe we'll be a little more systematic about it. Is there any youth items, new items for business? Any aging specific new items? Any intergenerational or people, I guess, youth goes from maybe, I'm not sure how far young we go, 5 to 99 plus. Is there anything that hits more than one of those target areas? All right, hearing none. Any old business? Any youth old business? Any aging old business? Any intergenerational old business?
I
Okay.
guess it could maybe be intergenerational.
Sure.
I was just wondering, we talked a long time ago about a resource fair sort of thing
Mhm.
that would have, in our imagination, it would have been targeted specifically for centers providing resources for youth, but it would definitely have potential as something for centers providing community services in general. So I think that kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah,
But-
I will say, I think, while everyone likes it in idea, when it comes to execution or like, would you show up, would you table, people get a little more hesitant and need to check with folks, and it's a little harder to get off the ground. Happy to revisit it, because every time we talk about it, people are generally in favor. I just think, and again, that could also be intergenerational, but I think we'd probably have to start planning in September with a hard date decided in June or September for it's going to be in May. So, and then work backwards by what benchmarks we have to meet then, so that it's a kind of constant agenda item and people were constantly bringing up the status of the event. I think the other thing that's really kind of made things ambiguous is not knowing if we're doing things in person or hybrid. I think hybrid resource fair as well. We were able to do the one are a little more tricky. It doesn't really allow people to socialize or kind of do what they want. We're all in this one room, and unless we get enough attendees to have multiple breakout rooms, it gets a little, and that takes a level of Zoom knowledge that I personally don't have, but I'm sure somebody does, and we could get them to volunteer to help us out. But yeah, let's start picking dates in the June meeting for when we want to have it, and working our calendar backwards, and figure out how we can get it off the ground for next year. Any other old business? Okay, this brings us to our tabled item of discussion of ongoing joint meetings. So I guess first thing, do we think that we want to continue to have these meetings? I shouldn't assume. I'm in favor, but I'm not the only person who gets a vote here, so thoughts?
Well, I'll step in even though I'm not on the board anymore.
Well, I like the idea of having joint meetings, because I think still there's a relationship between the aging and the youth, and work through that.
I like the idea, Rita, but and Julie, I think it's going to be very difficult to coordinate the issues, because the reality is some issues are just going to pertain solely to youth and some are going to pertain solely to aging. And there may be a time, and I have a feeling that's going to be more few and far in between, where the two of them blend together. So it's gonna take a lot of planning to have a constructive meeting every month or every other month.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You know, in my head, when we were planning this out, I would hope there'd been like an aging chair so that me and the aging chair could have kind of gotten a more substantive agenda together to get a real kind of sense of how this would work. This was just me kind of winging it. So what I would then propose, and again, up for discussion, is that we start with quarterly meetings next year. And we can decide if that first meeting would be September, that first meeting would be December. My vote would probably be like after September, because usually with the September meetings are very quick because we haven't really done much over the summer and there's not much to talk about anyway. And then we start with quarterly. If that seems like it's too much, we do every 4, we can scale it back at any time. If it seems like it's not enough, we can scale it up. You know, there's nothing holding us to, we don't have to commit to a schedule and put it in stone tonight. We can just have a jumping off point, so to speak.
Also, Julia, you gotta remember, come September, we're gonna have new board members.
Mhm.
And we don't know what their interests are gonna be and where it's gonna lie and what committees they want to join. So a lot will be determined by who is new on the board. So
No, I-
making plans right now is kind of putting the cart before the horse type situation.
Agreed to a certain extent. I just also think that, you know, my fear is that if we don't agree to something tonight, that this is going to fall by the wayside next year, and maybe that's okay. But you know, my hope is that we'd be able to, did I freeze? It looks like everybody else froze. That's not good.
You slow down.
Georgia, your hand is raised?
Yes, I agree. It sounds to me like, if I'm wrong, just tell me so. But my thoughts on this, it seems to be that we're looking for a what if. Instead of you have something on the intergenerational ideas just to get together, like Julia had said, whether it be September or December, whichever. But to me, it just sounds like we are doubting in what if a lot. We need to try to just get the youth, see how it works out after the first or 2 meetings, that we're able to get together. You understand what I'm trying to say here? That
Understood,
we,
Georgia.
pardon?
Yes, I think we understand.
What I'm trying to say is, it seems to me it's a lot of what ifs with the two, the youth and the aging. That's the way it seems to me. I think it's a great idea, and I think we should just do it. I mean, get together and then have an opinion about it.
So how about this as a new proposal, is we commit to one more meeting, either September, October, November. By then, and we ask that each individual committee keep a rolling agenda item of intergenerational, or the opposite committee, however you want to put it on your agenda for those interim meetings. We meet again, I would like to say October, November, and we reevaluate as we go forward. Does that seem more palatable to folks?
Yeah.
Sounds doable.
Yes.
Yes,
Sounds
it-
good.
Does anyone have a preference? I'm trying to think if there are more holidays in October, November, because that could be a twofer. We could free up a meeting day and
You gotta look at the calendar for the Jewish holidays.
I do not have one handy.
Neither do I.
I have one. I can take a look.
So the Jewish holidays start in the middle of September and they'll be over in the middle of October.
Oh,
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah is the 15th of September. And then they're over by the 9th of October.
so maybe the October at the, because you normally meet the end of the month, yes?
We're the third Monday of every month.
So maybe that would be the better October, third week in October.
So we'll tentatively say October 16th for our next joint meeting and ask that each committee commit to discussing this again in September and try to come to the table with ideas and the feedback from the agencies that usually attend that meeting. And we'll reevaluate October 16th.
Also, you still don't know who will be on the committees
Mhm.
until September, I guess.
Yeah, the new group could be like, hey, this is a horrible idea, we hate it, or hey, this is a no-brainer, why are we not doing this now? You know, it's always great to have new points of view, and you know, we'll see how it goes. No one, we don't have to put anything in stone tonight, just one more
Sounds like
meeting
a
and we'll
pl-
see
Sounds
how
like
it
a
goes.
plan.
All righty. Is there any other business to discuss? Questions, comments, thoughts, words of wisdom?
I'll just say one thing, maybe if we also think of a project that we could work on together, like whether, the resource fair or a project like helping out at Memorial Grove together, just to get people together and do something good for the community. I think just, sometimes having a goal in mind will help us all mesh if we want to do it. If not, it's just more hands on deck for everyone. That's it.
I'm a big fan of that. I think if we could pick something to kind of as a pilot to see an intergenerational project, then we'd have a better idea than, September tends to be a very loose, very kind of get to know you meeting. So October may not be as productive again if we don't have a goal for what we're going to come to October with. Memorial Grove sounds great to me. I'm open to other suggestions as well. Does everyone feel good about taking up Memorial Grove as our kind of pilot intergenerational project? Anyone concerned about that?
Could you just tell me what Memorial Grove is, please?
I was gonna ask that.
Actually, Sergio, if you are able to speak on this, you're probably the best person to explain all of it. I'm happy to speak, but I'll probably get a little bit wrong.
Good question.
If you could explain Memorial Grove.
Memorial Grove is a section in Van Cortlandt Park that has plaques on it that's dedicated to several veterans, mostly World War II, some Korean veterans, and it also has certain eras that are involved. It's there's no one is buried there, and we have an event. The community has an event there every Veterans Day where we bring in the local ROTCs in honor to our veterans.
In advance of that event, there's usually a cleanup event to make sure that the Grove is being its best. It is, there are, I believe, Sergio, please correct me, each plaque is tied to an actual tree in the Grove. And then, we could also help with the planning of reaching out to folks to speak or making sure folks are in attendance at that program.
Right, we just lost a tree there as well, but they are tied to trees, and there is some movement to make some changes in it as well, or make some additions. So that's the latest on Memorial Grove.
So does that seem like an intergenerational item we would like to try to take up to support? That happens in November, so our October meeting would be a good time to make sure, if we've been able to make any movement on it.
Yeah. I just threw it out as an idea. I mean, there's probably others that will come up.
Are there other proposals at this point, or do we want to just kind of hold on to Memorial Grove as a, just a pilot?
Speaking for the Veterans Committee, that sounds like a great idea.
I mean, I think Memorial Grove has the advantage of being something that already semi exists. So the only work the committee would have to do is really bring in the youth and the elderly. Whereas anything else we wanted to do would potentially involve a lot more planning that would be difficult to wrangle in 1 or 2 meetings. So I think that it's Memorial Grove is very good as a pilot project.
And Leona, to your point, there is an intergenerational aspect of it in that usually the ROTCs and the folks who are doing the color guard and such tend to be high school, college age. And most of the veterans who are in attendance are a little older than that. But you also have, I think we've had active service people who have recently retired and, oh goodness, what is the gentleman's name? I can see his face clear as day in my head. Who used to run the event?
Herb Barrett.
Herb Barrett, how old is Herb?
Herb actually came to the last few Aging Committee meetings, which was nice to see. Yeah.
I believe Herb was at least a World War II veteran. So, and he was running it up until this last year when the Veterans Committee took it over. So it's already got pieces of all of us in there. I think it sounds great to me. Should we vote on it or should we just kind of? I'm very laxed in my committee. I'm just kind of like, are we good? I guess we'll do a little more formally since it joined. Is there a motion to take up the Memorial Grove event as a cause for the intergenerational pilot?
I make a motion that we do that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Any opposition to this? Raise your hand, physical or virtual. Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Any other items of business this evening?
Judith?
My battery died. Can you hear me? No luck with this thing.
All right, if that is all, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. I know for our aging friends, it's a very big departure from your normal meeting, so thank you. I'm gonna hang around for a minute while I update the minutes, so if you guys have a question for me, but if not, again, thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Good to
Sorry,
see
my
you.
battery
Wonder
cord came in.
if I don't see you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, y'all.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye, Rhonda.
Night.
Bye, Georgia.
Good night, dear.
Good night. I'm sorry. My battery cord ran out, fell out. I'm hopeless. All right, good night.
Good night. All right, folks, I'm going to end the meeting if you don't have anything else. Again, thank you for your time and for spending part of your evening with me. Be well.